Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is ARISSA binti SOMAD and my matrix number is 1250740. And today I will be presenting on our case review SINGH anak lelaki BIKAR SINGH versus Pertubuhan Kebajikan Islam Malaysia or PERKIM KEDAH
and another.
A landmark decision of the Federal Court Malaysia reported in 1999, Volume 1, MLJ 489. This case deals with the critical question in Malaysia constitutional and Islamic law, which court has the power to decide whether a person is no longer Muslim. Let us begin with an overview of what this case about. So this case centered of a person who converted in Islam and later which renounced the faith and returned to his original religion. The key legal problem is which court has the jurisdiction to hear this case, the civil court or the Sharia court. So, to give some background, SINGH was born in Sikh and converted to Islam at 1988 at the age of 17. Without his widowed mother's knowledge, years later, he decided to leave Islam and return to Sikhism. He then applied to Civil High Court for a declaration that he was no longer a Muslim. However, the Jabatan Agama Islam or JAID raised a preliminary objection, arguing that a civil court had no power to hear this matter at all. So this raised the core constitutional question we will explore today. Does the Article 121 Clause 1A of the Federal Constitution take away the civil court's jurisdiction over apostasy cases? And can the Sharia court's jurisdiction can be applied even it is not expressly stated in state law? Now, a quick introduction to the case profile. The full citation is High Court 1994, Volume 1, MLJ 619 and on appeal, Federal Court 1999, Volume 1, MLJ 489. In a term of court level, the case began at the High Court in Kuala Lumpur and was appealed to the Federal Court of Malaysia, Civil Appeal Number 01611993. The civil appeal involving a constitutional and Islamic law, specifically a jurisdiction dispute. The parties were SINGH anak lelaki BIKAR SINGH as the appellant, PERKIM KEDAH as the first respondent and Jabatan Agama Islam as the second respondent. At the High Court, the judge was Wan Adnan J, and the Federal Court, the panel consists of Yusuf Chin CJ, Lamin Muhammad Yusof PCA and Muhammad Dizaidin FCJ, who delivered the leading judgment. Before we go further, let's look at why this case matters, its objective and significance to Malaysian law. There are four key purposes this case serves. First, jurisdictional demarcation. It helps set the boundary between civil and Sharia court. Second, it interprets Article 121 Clause 1A, clarifying how far this provision excludes civil court jurisdiction. Third, establish the doctrine of implied jurisdiction, meaning Sharia courts can have the power over a matter even if it's not expressly written into law. And fourth, it upholds Malaysia's dual legal system by affirming the personal Islamic law matters belong exclusively to Sharia courts. Moving into our legal analysis, starting with issue, there are three questions before the court. 1. Whether the Civil High Court had jurisdiction to declare the appellant no longer a Muslim. 2. Whether the Sharia court had jurisdiction over apostasy even though the KEDAH enactment did not expressly provide for it. And 3. Whether the appellant's conversion as a minor affected this jurisdiction issue. Now the rules applied by the court. Article 121 Clause 1A of the Federal Constitution excludes civil courts from matters within the Sharia court jurisdiction. And Article 11 Clause 1 guarantees a freedom of religion. The 9th Schedule State List gives state legislators power over Islamic law and Sharia courts. And the relevant state law here were the Administration of Muslim Law Enactment KEDAH in 1962 and Mahkamah Syariah Enactment KEDAH in 1983. Now, let's look at how the court applied the rules to the facts. The appellant converted to Islam at 70 years and 4 months old, and importantly, he never challenged the validity of conversion after he became an adult. He later underwent a SINGH baptism ceremony and declared that he had reverted to Sikhism, then sought a declaration from a civil high court that he was no longer a Muslim. The court held that, according to Islamic law and the relevant fatwa, a person remains a Muslim until Sharia court declares otherwise. And although the KEDAH law did not expressly grant the Sharia court jurisdiction over apostasy, the federal court held that such as jurisdiction existed by implication, because if the Sharia court has jurisdiction of the conversion into Islam, then logically it must also have jurisdiction over conversion out of Islam. So this brings us to conclusion of legal analysis. The federal court ruled that the Sharia court had exclusive jurisdiction to determine the applicant's religious status. Therefore, the civil high court had no jurisdiction at all to make the declaration. Now let's look at more closely at the court's decision and its underlying reasoning. The final decision was appeal dismissed. The Sharia court has exclusive jurisdiction over apostasy. The court's reasoning rested on three main pillars. First, the effect of Article 121 Clause 1A. Civil court simply has no jurisdiction over matters that fall within Sharia court jurisdiction. Even though KEDAH law did not expressly mention apostasy, the Sharia court's jurisdiction over conversion out of Islam was applied from its existing jurisdiction of conversion into Islam. Second, the religious nature of the issue. Determining whether someone is or is not a Muslim is a matter of hukum syara, Islamic law, and such a matters require religious expertise. Therefore, only the Sharia courts are competent to decide this issue, not the civil court. Third, the appellant's own conduct. He had practiced Islam for several years after his conversion, and any alleged defect in the conversion process did not automatically invalidate his status as a Muslim. As such, only the Sharia court could make the declaration that he had left Islam. Now, let's move on to our discussion of this case's wider significance and the criticism it has attracted. SINGH is one of the most significant cases in Malaysia legal history. It is established the doctrine of implied jurisdiction, allowing the Sharia courts to exercise jurisdiction over apostasy even though it was not expressly stated in state law. This principle was later affirmed in several important cases like Lina Joy, Said Zulkifli, and Haji Raimi bin Abdullah. However, the decision also attracted significant criticism. Critics argued that jurisdiction affecting fundamental rights like freedom of religion should have expressly provided by the law, not merely implied. The decision was also seen as creating the tension with Article 11, Clause 1 of the Federal Constitution, which guarantees freedom of religion. In fact, some later cases even question whether Article 121, Clause 1A automatically excludes civil court jurisdiction in all matters involving Islamic law, suggesting that the approach in SINGH may have overly broad. And finally, let us bring this case review to close with our overall conclusion. SINGH anak lelaki BIKAR SINGH versus PERKIM KEDAH and another 99, Volume 1, MLJ 489 is a landmark case in Malaysia constitutional and Islamic law. The federal court held that Sharia court have exclusive jurisdiction over apostasy matters, and that such a jurisdiction may be applied from law governing conversion into Islam even without express jurisdiction. Despite growing criticism regarding religious freedom and the applied jurisdiction doctrine, SINGH remains the leading authority on apostasy religious conversion cases in Malaysia today. It continues to be cited and applied in subsequent federal court decisions, cementing its place as one of the most important cases in Malaysia's dual legal system. That's all from me, Nur ARISSA binti SOMAD. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.